It was a sensational race with an emotional winner.
Here at Silverstone, the crowds are going crazy. Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix.
Get in there, Lewis!
Thank you so much, guys. It means a lot. It means a lot to get this one. A big thank you to all the fans here. Love you guys.
Tears of joy for Lewis Hamilton as he won the British Grand Prix in front of his home crowd. It's his 104th F1 victory. It's the first time a driver has won 9 times at the same circuit. My name's Tom Clarkson in the Silverstone paddock with Sky Sports' Natalie Pinkham. Hello, Pinks.
Hello.
And former F1 driver and Silverstone expert, Alex Wurz.
No pressure.
Hello. I'm not sure what's more exciting, the way you talk or that Grand Prix we've just seen.
Well, Wurz, sum it up. What have we just seen? I mean, history.
Look, I tell you, before the race started, we've seen the trailer for the Hollywood movie F1. Now, each and every week, week in, week out, we are delivering Hollywood blockbuster stuff. On track, real sport, action heroes out there. And it is just mind-blowing how Formula One has become that you need a crystal ball in the morning to wake up to know who is able to be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. We don't know. So this is just not a golden, a platinum era of Formula One, which I'm very excited about to see that.
Do you know what though, Vertsy? The script may have got thrown out for not being believable because what we witnessed today was a fairy tale of epic proportions. And to see Lewis come into this season so downbeat, absolutely adamant that he wouldn't be able to deliver a win in this car. I mean, it was undrivable. And here he is on the top step of the podium, something quite magical about that man in this place.
What do you think was the overriding emotion for Lewis Hamilton? Because I've never seen him that emotional after a win. Was it relief? I think it must have been relief.
No, I think it was a mix of an endless amount of emotions and ballast, fear, hope, everything coming off, coming in. And the race itself was also really properly intensive because you had multiple competitors at various stages of this race, and the competition was not only on track, it was also the weather, it was the strategies, it was perhaps safety cars, which in the end we didn't have, but it could have turned around in a snap, in a tiny little mistake, and he did not do a single mistake today, and it was fascinating to watch of how Mercedes in the end put it down, in my opinion, to stopping one lap early, and McLaren, actually Lando, admitting they have messed up to see this one lap opportunity, and that turned it around, and then nursing the red tire all the way to the end with a very fast approaching Max Verstappen.
Well, let's hear from the man himself, who's back on the top step of the podium for the first time since Saudi Arabia 2021.
It's been 946 days or something like that since the last win, and really challenging, difficult time, obviously 2021, and then coming back in with a car that we've not been able to fight with for the last couple of years. I think just it's been incredibly mentally challenging, I think for everyone in the team, but I think just knowing how hard everyone's continued to work, knowing how I've managed just to keep my head in it, and then with everything that's happened this year as well, with so many emotions this year, obviously announcing that I'm leaving, and at the same time starting with a car that we didn't feel that we could win with, to then finally be in a place where we win, and not only that, but at the British Grand Prix in front of my home crowd. It's the most incredible honour to be standing on the top of the podium and hearing the national anthem with the King's name in it, for example. It's the first time I've had that. So, and then also my family's here. It's really, really an unbelievable feeling to be on that track. This is the best track for me, personally. I think this is the best track in the world, but it's the fans also, the whole place.
Lewis actually said in the pen, the emotions that he felt then when he got out of the car, when he absorbed all the energy from the crowd, was right up there with winning a world championship. That moment of pure joy, I mean, I can't begin to imagine how you harness the energy of a crowd in the way that he has. But something happens here, and as Wurz says, he is just able to react to such difficult, changeable conditions. He's the master of them. Today was, glorious if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan.
I mean, let's wind it back to after qualifying yesterday. Did you think they had the pace after qualifying to win this, or did you think that was a one-lap extravaganza and you were expecting Max Verstappen to come through and win it?
Tom asked me if I would have thought that they're on pole position. Asked me if I would have bet any money that they are able to go on the podium here in Silverstone just 2 months ago. I remember seeing James Ellison in the pre-season test in Bahrain, and I walked next to him and I cheered him up. A person who I appreciate a lot from my early days. He was there at Benetton, and he's a sensational engineer, but his shoulders were almost dragging on the floor. He was disappointed because he realized that the car didn't deliver, as Binks just said. And in percentage, they were the furthest away in the last 2-3 seasons at the beginning of this season. So almost the worst start of the season. And then to just keep working systematically, thoroughly, and chipping away at it, and then coming to a track which is an aerodynamic proving ground, which is bumpy, which has high speed, slow speed. So you need the combination of a good contact patch. That means the mechanical grip, the suspension, it all needs to work, which in my opinion was the weak spot of Mercedes in the past. And they have overcome that. And this is really sensational. It shows same signs of what McLaren achieved last year. Let's also be honest and pull our head to the other British team, which was a protagonist here on this weekend, over the last few weekends. And Mercedes has now came back so strong, which again, coming back to my starting point, I would have not bet any money. So I pull my head. It is sensational, and it proves the engineering skill at the moment in Formula One is equally cool as the on-track battles.
Pinks, I'm reminded of words that Daniel Ricciardo uttered at Monza in 2021 on the slowdown lap after he'd won. He said, "For those who thought I'd left, I didn't go anywhere." Am I quoting him verbatim there? But that was the gist of it.
Yeah.
And I felt this is what Lewis was saying after the win today, to everything that came out of his mouth, the emotion. He actually said in the press conference, "It might be my most important win, the win that means the most to me."
When you consider his last win was Saudi 2021, you then went on to all the controversy in Abu Dhabi 2021. Think how much that man has had to process and deal with. We didn't even know if he'd come back after that. He came back, he got his head down, he started working, and then the road ahead looked pretty bleak at times. And he said in the pen, there's been some really low moments. There's been plenty of moments where I thought, why am I still here? Where to go next? And something kept him in. Something spurred him on and motivated him. And today, it just feels like this coming together that he needs and he deserves. And frankly, it could just be one of the most incredible moments in sporting history. I think, honestly, we will look back on today as an incredible moment in history, not just for Lewis, but for the sport as a whole.
I also think it might be the completion of the healing process.
Yeah, good point. You're like a therapist, aren't you?
But do you think, the lows that you've just described, the being beaten by George this year in qualifying, I think that must be really hard.
Not just comprehensively beaten. And actually yesterday, he was pretty low in the pen.
And
I was trying to, you and I trying to find positives. And he was, body language was shot. He put it on pole and then he had it taken from him by his younger teammate who was out qualifying him, out racing him. So listen, today was, I can only imagine how much it meant to him. Other side of the garage, the lows were pretty low for George today. That was tough. That was a bitter pill to swallow. But he's young, and you just feel as if his chance will come. I suppose whenever I talk to Lewis Hamilton fans, they're like, "What if he just doesn't get another chance?" That was the fear, wasn't it? And he may not, in terms of winning a whole championship. At least he's got that win, and it means so much. It's so symbolic, isn't it?
There's a very happy Toto Wolff. Toto, many congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What is the overriding emotion? You're heading out, but just very quickly, I thought you were very emotional, as was your driver.
I'm happy. I think that final Grand Prix for him, checking out of Mercedes with a victory, it's good.
It was very good. Look, you're heading off, Toto. Many congratulations. Well done, well done, well done.
Just want to say about Toto, I interviewed him straight after the race for Austrian TV, which I work for. I asked him, what does this victory mean to him? And actually I could see he hasn't processed it. I think Lewis has processed it in the here, right now, that this is a monumental, sensational, maybe lifetime victory for him and the British fans and motorsport, as Natalie said. And he didn't. And I think give him some time, interview him in a few weeks' time, it will come back.
He was running out the door just then, so it wasn't the time. But I do sense there's deep down that feeling of regret that it's coming to an end. Do you feel that?
Sure, like why wouldn't you? This has been an incredible relationship. And actually, chatting
sorry to interrupt,
yeah, go
but
on.
I actually think there was a moment where earlier in the year they were all thinking, no, it is probably quite a good time for us to go our separate ways. Toto was excited about Kimi Antonelli coming through.
Yeah, but hang on, that was after the dust had settled after the announcement. That announcement came as a shock to Toto. Of that, there's no doubt. And it built up a very strong relationship over the years, and that will endure, no doubt about it. It's the end of an era for him, and I'm sure that it's always felt like unfinished business. And I'm sure, actually, at the point where Lewis made that decision, Toto's probably thinking, well, he's made that decision for a reason. Is that because he doesn't think he can win with us? So actually, today is a huge moment of relief for Toto as well, that they've been able to bring that win home. But I'm really intrigued by your question to Toto as well. It must be a really strange feeling when one of your drivers DNFs in a really sort of, I mean, difficult to process way, isn't it? A water systems failure.
Yes, water system failure. First failure this year for Mercedes.
I mean, what is that?
That's, you can't say bad luck. Engineer would say there is not such thing as bad luck. There's only thorough engineering. There must have been somewhere an issue. I don't know. Can't answer that, but definitely heard George, who had the sensational pole position.
Yeah.
Lost a little bit in the damp conditions, but I mean, he was in the running, but then very unfortunate, of course, for one of the Brits here to maybe try to bring home a 1, 2, 3, and you let Holland come to the podium. So a bit football hint here. So guys, get your act together.
But as a driver, is it harder or easier to accept a DNF if it was out of your hands? Or actually does that kind of compound the frustration because it was nothing you did wrong?
Sometimes it's easier to digest that it's out of your hands. Of course, it nearly said a word which I didn't want to say, but it's you're seriously not happy. If you do your own DNF, that hurts you and stings you sometimes for a lifetime. So it's easier to move on from a technical failure.
Hear that? That's the sound of a new sale on Shopify. And if you're dreaming of expanding your side hustle or starting a business, you need them in your corner. Shopify is the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. And it's already revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide, thanks to its simplistic approach to online and in-person selling. It's got all of your sales channels covered, from a shopfront-ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform. And it even helps you start selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Instagram, and of course TikTok. And what I love about Shopify is that it knows every business is unique. It doesn't matter if you're selling homemade soaps or handcrafted furniture. Its industry-leading tools are designed to give you complete control over your brand without needing to learn any new skills in design or coding. And you can customize your online shop to suit your style, connect with new customers to drive growth, and most importantly, it helps build your confidence to take your business to the next level. It's incredibly empowering for entrepreneurs, and no matter where you are on your journey, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way with its award-winning help and extensive business course library. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/nation, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/nation to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/nation. Verzi, do you think Mercedes and Lewis won this race or McLaren threw it away?
No, Mercedes won the race. That starts with a perfect qualifying execution. A front row lockout you don't do by chance and by luck. You do it simply by speed and in this case excellence. And they have built on this. They dominated the race straight out of the box when it was dry and was just flat out racing. They drove away. They had chipping away tenths after tenths every sector. They lost it a little bit due to the touch of higher downforce. McLaren is running naturally in their car when it started drizzling. Then heads up, both McLaren drivers did sensational, and then they overtook. And at this point I thought, oh, is this now turning around? Again, we can down to, I say once a shark, you're always a shark. That is for the team in the Mercedes garage, the strategist. They were suddenly back in the element. Like you throw a fish back in the water, they knew fighting for the win. And that was beautiful to see that they said, if we come in early and the last sector just dries quick enough, we are getting them. And they did it. And that was cool. But overall, I'm an absolute fan of this sport. Always are, but the extra love is blooming right now with such a extreme competition. And again, we can't even tell you next week who will be the favorite.
That is phenomenal, isn't it?
Cool.
So good for the sport. The only thing I would say, I would agree with you that it's Mercedes who won today, but McLaren wouldn't. Certainly Lando Norris won't.
We threw it away in the final stop, so one lap, but also I didn't think it was a lap. I think even if I boxed on the perfect lap, our decision to go onto the softs was the wrong one. I think Lewis still would have won no matter what. So two colds from our side cost us everything today. So pretty, especially here, pretty disappointing.
He firmly believes they threw away the win, choosing the soft tyres as opposed to the mediums. He believes was his downfall, and he was really beating himself up in the pen, saying, I'm making too many mistakes, the team are making too many mistakes. I'm interested to hear your view on this, Verzi, because they haven't been at the sharp end, not nearly as much as Mercedes or indeed Red Bull. For me, the really telling moment was when the pit wall almost asked Lando what to do. Should we do this or should we do that? And for me, and it sounds maybe oversimplistic, but it felt like a lack of conviction, a lack of strength in their convictions about decision. Now, I know that, and I'm talking to Charles Leclerc about this, because ultimately he made the wrong call about tyres, whether he did or the pit wall did. I mean, I pushed him on that. Whose decision is it really? You as a driver when you feel your way around the track, or the pit wall with all the data? But ultimately, I don't know, I just feel like that's the last piece in the jigsaw that's missing. And actually, Oscar backed that up, because he said, we're nailing the hard stuff. We've got a very competitive car now, but we're making mistakes when it comes to key decisions at key moments in the race. So they certainly feel like they threw away the victory today.
I think they've got something the other two teams don't have, which is the spirit of, let's say, the new kids on the block. Because McLaren had a long period of small hopes, but not being there. And they have proven with the turnaround last year and this year on each and every circuit to be competitive. I think they're purposely hard on themselves, which is a form of motivating, which is a form of asking the team, hey, let's roll the sleeves up even one more turn, because the competition is so tough. They know they have to do that. So I wouldn't think that is literally the problem. I would think they are self-critical in order to keep this newcomer motivation. I'm not sure that's not the right word, but
no. I totally get what you mean, and actually emotions run high straight after the race. And we saw it obviously from Lando in Austria. He felt very, very emotional. 24 hours later, dust has settled. He felt a different person because of it. But I also put it to him that, look, ultimately, you're on the podium at the British Grand Prix, which had I told you 18 months ago, you would have jumped at the opportunity. You wouldn't have believed it. And we have to sometimes take a step back to see how much progress has been made by McLaren as a whole. And it's a great thing that they put this much pressure on themselves, and actually nothing but a win is good enough now. Because again, as fans, that is great to hear and great to know that the competition is that real.
When you're battling for 10th, if you overshoot your pit box, as Lando did at the last stop, and you lose a couple of seconds, it probably doesn't matter and no one even notices. That was the difference today between coming
your
out.
engineer notices, and he will throw the paper with 1/10 loss on a pit entry around your ears. But of course, sorry to jump into like an outbreaking maneuver in turn 1. But it is always about the incredible detail and hundreds of a second in Formula 1. But it is now so beautifully displayed to the people who, of course, want to see the fight for the lead. And whilst the midfield fight is sometimes terribly exciting, it is about the battle for the lead, which gets the millions of viewers each and every race. And this is what we see now, and that's the beautiful side of this story.
How difficult is it to miss your pit box? You're coming in, it's concrete, it's wet. He missed it by what, couple of feet? Easy to do?
Yes, it's absolutely easy to do, but everyone has done it. It shouldn't happen. So you have to be hard on yourself. And in these cases, I remember working in F1 at the beginning. Actually, it was Pat Simmons who said, look, if you do mistakes on a pit entry, I'll give you an example. I actually paid a fine in free practice because I want you to push to the maximum. I'm happy if you overpush your pit stop box. But then in the race, when it counts and we need this super precision, I'm not happy anymore. But it's this type of mentality, and that's now here. And of course, that was a mistake, which in hindsight is one of those little extras which make you lose nowadays. But here again, the real winner, whilst it's Lewis Hamilton today, but the real winner for me are the fans of Formula 1 because they see something which we rarely see to such a high level.
Now, everyone watching that race was probably becoming, an amateur strategist. Why do you think they didn't double stack their cars? McLaren I'm talking about.
Because at this time, you would think it is a too great loss. They're doing 47s, 46s, the people on the old Inters out there. The lap before was still a 40 from Lando, and the rain didn't come as hard. But that was their mindset, I believe. And they said they would have penalized him too hard and he would have dropped 5 or 6 seconds. In hindsight, very easy hindsight, it actually cost him a chance to be still there in the battle, which he was very much in it. He was one of the key protagonists at the beginning. That's one of those things where the team perhaps hurt themselves. Nevertheless, McLaren is the highest point scoring team of this weekend. So also deserves credit.
Can we bring it on to Max Verstappen now? We haven't mentioned him. He finished second. He drove, I thought, a brilliant race, but it was a sort of slightly topsy-turvy race. But before we come on to that, he's won some sensational Grand Prix this year, 7 of them. We haven't had you on the show this year. I would just like to start...
That's scandalous, by the way.
Yes.
You need to be on it every week.
Yeah. But what do you make of the version of Max we're seeing?
I make a lot of this version because he's a championship leader with a car on average not being the fastest. I rate his Silverstone performance as one of his greatest. To actually stay calm, to be very considerate, to not even fight Lando, knowing now is not the time I'm putting my elbows out. That time will come later because there is still uncertainty in which tires to choose, about race strategy and of course the weather. So he said, no, I'm letting him go. I don't want to lose the time. And that is very smart. That means he is fully calculated and process driven. And this is for him maybe the only way to win the championship because his car speed is not there each and every race. Saying that, in Austria, he was under full control until the last pit stop. And the last pit stop, he was held from traffic in the pit lane. He came out. There was a mistake, of course, from him, rare, but there was a mistake in turn 4. And then Lando had a new set of medium tires, which he didn't. So suddenly the race turned up on its head, whilst everything before he controlled. Today he controlled his car, his emotions, and I think he came into a higher position than the car was capable of.
Again, we've seen it so many times this year.
I have to say, and it sounds strange saying congratulations to Max for a P2. You're not used to it, has he? But he was genuinely pretty upbeat about that. He said, look, we maximised everything today. We made the right decisions at the right times. And yeah, you know, I thought it was a really strong race to him. I mean, emotions say that Lewis Hamilton's your driver of the day, but actually, Max was a strong contender for that title too.
Do you know something that happened to him today? When he came into the press conference, we were waiting for Lewis. Lewis taking a long time, probably talking to you, Pinks.
Sorry.
And
sorry, not sorry.
He was shaking his hand, and I was saying, what are you doing? And he said, when he was going through one of the fast corners, a stone flicked up and hit him on the knuckle at 160 miles an hour. That's going to hurt, isn't it? Didn't happen in your day. Did you have more of a windscreen in your day?
No, we had leather hats and
yeah.
that hurt. No, of course, stone hitting your knuckle or your helmet or anything that still happened in my days. But in the end of the day, I think Max has his eye already firmly on the championship. And that's why I mentioned he's so calculated at the moment, so process-driven, that he knows if he now screws up a race and loses 25 points, 20, 18, you name it, that suddenly could be a dynamic which creates even more headwind in the future. So he starts calculating his gap. And the few beans he has on points, he has more than the others, quite a
84.
few. Yeah. And he is now thinking, okay, with damage limitation, but not screwing up, I'm cruising this home, and that's the ultimate you want to achieve. You want to be the world champion this year, and you're not always winning it with the elbows out.
Well, and we are exactly halfway through this world championship. We're 12 races in, 12 races to go. I think he's sitting... I mean, Wurz, I think he's helped by the fact that there are so many cars in it now, isn't it? When he was dominating at the start, now... McLaren are in it, Mercedes are in it, I'm sure Ferrari are going to come back in it, and they're all going to be taking points off each other. So that 84-point gap he's got, I think something extraordinary is going to have to happen to stop him winning the title. I'm not saying we're not going to have a sensational second half of the year. I think we are. But I think, as you say, Max is so intelligent and now so cool that it's his to lose.
Yes, I mean, he's still the man to beat. That's just by mathematics with his points advantage, but also with the mindset he has at the moment. And as you rightly say, that's just a simple probability calculation that so many players for the wins are taking points off each other. So for a single person to catch him, there are so many other competitors which make this life very difficult.
Now, Wurz, our next topic of conversation, I think you're going to be brilliant at, because I want to talk about...
So far I was below average.
Even better, because I want to talk about Sergio Perez and another below par weekend. He said after throwing it off in Q1, I've let the whole team down. And what did he manage to climb back to 17th in the race? He's clearly at a very low ebb. The rumour mill in Formula One has cranked up a few notches. People are now saying that there are chances that he's going to be replaced. Who's going to replace him? Of course, back in 1997, you were the guy that then went and was fighting to get on the grid, Gerhard Berger's place, and then, of course, happened again at McLaren as well for you. First up, Perez. Is his performance as bad as it looks, or is he just up against the best driver in Formula 1?
Can I inject a stat at this point? Nico Hulkenberg has got more points from the last 2 races than Sergio Perez has in the last 6. I mean, that says a lot about Nico Hulkenberg at the moment, doesn't it?
Who is flying.
Yeah.
And the team.
And the team,
because,
absolutely.
You need the car for it.
Absolutely.
So I'm always a fan of being fair to all the players, but Nico in particular does a great job.
I feel for Sergio. I mean, I was chatting to Christian after the race, and he was saying we made all the right decisions with Max. When it came to Checo, we had to throw caution to the wind. We had to take a few risks and gambles. They didn't pay off. And ultimately, he could have gone from 0 to hero after a very difficult quali. Obviously, he was out of position, but he had his car through the field. It didn't work for him today, but you kind of wonder, at one point his teammate lapped him. It's not a great place to be in, is it?
Can a driver come back from that?
I think, yes. I think very difficult. I would almost think if Checo would simply go to a different team, if he would get a chance, he would come back as a very strong driver who, on a good day, is able to win a Formula One race. But with this, I don't know what it is in English, but the cloud of Verstappen hanging over him, there is no oxygen for him to breathe, to refresh his brain. There is no life elixir there to kickstart the trust in yourself. And this is really, really difficult to be against such a strong teammate who really, I can only describe it, the moment he walks into the room, he takes the oxygen of this room and consumes it all. That is so performance driven. The team is so behind Max, and he's more and more on the back foot. But he's fundamentally not a bad driver. He won races.
Summer break can't come soon enough for him, can it? It's really interesting with the triple header because when it's going well, you're riding the crest of a wave, you're in a groove, you want the races to keep coming in thick and fast. But the flip side of that is if you're having a bad time, it is so difficult to turn the tide, and he needs a break. You know, press the reset button. We've got a week off now, 2 weeks. What? I've lost track. Hungary's our next race, isn't it?
I mean, 2 weeks, he's going to go back to Mexico, back to the bosom of his family, his wife, his kids, his parents.
Talking of bosoms, I made a bit of a faux pas in the pen today because I said to Fernando, how was it with the contact with Albon? And he said, did I have contact with Albon? I said, yes. You didn't feel it? And he was like, no. I went, it was just a little kiss on the bum. I meant to say rear, but I said bum. I didn't mean to say bum. And then he did this weird little thing with his bum. And then I went bright red because I realised I said bum live on air. Anyway, back to Checo in the bosom of his family.
Yeah, I just, Liam Lawson, the test and reserve driver at Red Bull this year, is testing this year's car. This coming Thursday at Silverstone, so there's a direct comparison. I feel like we've been there before. This is
surely
this is
you're
the
not going to
test
throw
that Daniel
Liam
Ricciardo
straight into a Red Bull seat. I mean,
Why
that
not?
would be. I mean, I'm sure he'd say he could handle it, but haven't we seen it time and time again that you overexpose these young drivers, and then it's just a ruthless system? And I mean, if it was me and I wanted to manage Liam Lawson, I'd bring him in at the junior team first and then potentially promote him as and when he deserves it. But I look at Nick de Vries. He had a brilliant outing when he subbed for Alex Albon, and then he came in and was overexposed, and it's tough. It's not easy to be consistently competitive.
I'm with Pinks, folks. I think if Liam Lawson comes in alongside Max Verstappen, he ain't going to look great because no one's looking great alongside Max Verstappen.
I feel like Eminem. You have one shot, one opportunity. You just take it. If you want to go against the big boys and then go in, you can only surprise. And perhaps with a little bit of luck, which at this point you will need it. Hey, why not?
Right, do an Ollie Behrman.
Yeah.
Who went in alongside
that's all
Charles Leclerc at Ferrari. That's a very good point. So I think all eyes on this Pirelli test at Silverstone.
Not talking too much about myself, but I was here in Silverstone very long ago. I was a substitute driver. I went straight to the podium, and the day after I had multiple teams calling me up asking for my contract. But Benetton were the fastest to sign me. So I know it can happen straight away. You just need that good race. And with a little bit of luck, he comes to a track where actually the Red Bull works. It's easy to drive. Biff, buff, boof, he's there. So I think sometimes the overthinking is the problem, and it's just executing and doing it. And he is a very, very good driver. And guys, there is a big young generation out there which is incoming, inflowing, and they will also show a lot of new skills. So he's on the forefront there.
The average qualifying gap between Verstappen and Perez over the 3.5 years they've been together is about 0.5, half a second. Let's imagine Lawson is put in the car, first race after the summer break, Zandvoort. What, if he gets within half a second, he's done a great job. If he gets within 0.3, he's done a sensational job.
Yeah, and it's not only just the pure lap time, of course it is, because the stopwatch never lies in the end of the day. But just imagine there's a 1-2 finish. Yeah, because the Red Bull works very good, the tire management is good, there's a clean start, everything works. Bingo, job done. Suddenly you put 2 zeros after your contract number, and your phone number will suddenly become very popular down the paddock.
Do you know, as brilliant as it is for Nico Hulkenberg that he signed a long-term deal with Sauber Audi,
You think he might be
I
regretting
kind of
it?
think he signed too early.
Yeah, but look, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Ultimately, he had to secure his future. There was one stage where he was working on German TV. We thought his F1 career was done. And he's back now, pumping in P6s in a Haas, beating Ferrari. It's crazy. He is an exceptional driver. And actually, for me, he's one of the most underrated drivers. He should have been on the podium by now, but doesn't need me to remind him of that.
Wurz, he's a Le Mans winner, isn't he? They're a breed apart, those Le Mans winners, aren't they, Wurz?
Yeah, they're different kind of animals.
For those who aren't aware, Wurz, of course, is in fact, were you the youngest ever Le Mans winner back in the day?
Yes, I'm not the youngest anymore, but I'm still the youngest winner of Le Mans. One of the few guys who arrived first time and won it, like Nico did. Anyway, we're here for F1, for the pinnacle of motorsport, and it's quite an interesting chat. I'm not enjoying the chat about Checo, because I wish him dearly the best. I wish him that actually he can recover, that he can come back and show us his real Checo style. But it is tough. It's tough, and I don't enjoy this, because I appreciate him as a person. He's a great GPD member. He loves the sport, and he has given a lot to the sport, And I mean, let's go to Mexico, and he brings in the hundreds of thousands people over there. He brings in millions of TV viewers. But unfortunately for him, a performance is not on his side.
I don't think it's too late for Checo. I think he can still fight for his seat. He has to get strong results soon, doesn't he? He signed this new contract. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think
you can sign a new contract, but it's obviously littered with performance clauses that doesn't make it worth the paper it's written on.
Helmut Marko is not known for being sympathetic towards drivers,
no.
Is he? And I think he's got until, I don't know, I haven't been told this by anyone at Red Bull, but I think the summer break is a very significant moment, as Pete Bonington's just walked past looking wet. I suppose that's champagne, isn't it?
I mean,
smiling. Pete Bonington, Lewis Hamilton's race engineer.
I know, wasn't it so lovely to see the emotion with both of them? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Really
I had
cool.
tears in my eyes.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Lewis made me cry in the pen. I mean, look, admittedly, I cry in insurance adverts. It doesn't take much, but it was so cool. I mean, it's lovely.
And virtually the relationship driver-engineer, Pete Bonington he's not just the guy working out what setup to put on the car. He's actually working out what setup to put on the driver as well, isn't he? It's all psychological as well.
Yes, I believe the race engineers are first and foremost psychologists. They need to have, depending on the driver, the stick and carrot mentality. At times you need to be a teacher, times you need to be the best friend, the biggest critics, and the absolute biggest supporter at each and every time until the last minute and the last lap you're working together. The emphasis for the setup is more in the background of the team, into the performance engineers. They need to see the data, they need to see the understanding of tire pressures, tire temperatures, brake temperatures, what your diff is doing and all of this. They need to be spot on there and need to deliver the engineering excellence. So this relationship between Bono and Lewis is a very interesting one. I think it also went equally Max and JB. It goes up and down like every relationship. And it's like this relationship is the rock in the ocean. And actually that succeeded today. That's why they were both so happy and put a lot of tears in many people's eyes.
Now look, another driver that's had a new race engineer is Charles Leclerc. Can we just have a very brief chat about all the Ferrari stuff? Ferrari powered, first of all, the Haas's. We've touched on Hulk briefly, but the performance of that team and the consistency they're finding, which is something they have never found before under Io Komatsu's leadership, is, I think, the biggest difference for me in what's going on at Haas.
I have to say, I do love when the light is shone within and they recruit internally for the big position of team principal. And I think Io is emerging as a really strong leader. Here's an engineer that's come through, who's been at the team a long time, very passionate, very measured, understands the sport incredibly well, and he's really emerging and blossoming into a great leader.
So, on this note, I feel, and I've been and I worked at team management as well, is the solution for a team is 99.9% within the team. You just need to ask the right people.
Spot on.
And if you're walking through your workshop and you ask the man on the machine or the woman on the machine and you say, is your machine good? Is the supply good? Is the working conditions good? Is the team spirit good? They tell you one or two things. With this information, you walk to the next department, you pick this up, and with this type of communication, you find the problems of your team internally, and you don't need an external people to come in and just tell you what to do. And I think this just had happened in Haas, that actually they refocused, but only internally. And again, the solutions are on your floor. Just talk to your people.
Yeah. I mean, the same can be said actually for McLaren, and Lando said that about Andreas Stellers, is that, again, he's been the key to unlocking the talent internally, helping people to believe in themselves and start delivering for the team.
And what do we think of Io's first driver signing? Ollie Behrman has been confirmed for next year. We had a little flirtation with him to see what he could do in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He's done 3 FP1s as well for the team.
It's more than a little flirtation. I mean, he was unbelievable in Saudi.
Yeah, well, he was.
But you're right. I think most of the data has been taken from these FP1 sessions, of which he's going to have 6 in total. And it's really shown everyone that he's the real deal.
Yeah. Are you excited by him?
Yeah, I'm excited with all of the young kids coming in on the doorsteps. Some even still in F4. I follow this very closely. I think young drivers at the moment, they're going through an education stage of driving where each and every lap is so understood. They are talking the same amount about tire management, tire science, like the big boys in F1. So they grow up with a much higher efficiency per kilometer than the current drivers that you will see in the next few years. There's an inflow of talent which will lift the bar and will make life very difficult for the current superstars. So I can't wait for this generation change to start happening, and it is now starting to happen with Liam Lawson, who has shown us already his skills, with Ollie Behrman, and there will be quite a few more coming. There will be some which will not succeed and will crack under the pressure, because it's not enough to just win in junior categories. You need to mentally develop with this global game of Formula One, because it is very demanding. It's not just about driver skill.
So Hulkenberg qualifies P6, finishes P6.
Oh, he dropped down at the start, didn't he? So he had to fight back for P6.
But Pinks, he out-qualified both works Ferrari.
Yeah.
Ferraris.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, Ferrari were having a few issues in terms of they had to revert back to an older spec of the aero and things like that. But the fact remains that Hulkenberg in the Haas was doing a better job than both works Ferrari drivers.
And actually, just on Ferrari though for a moment, I thought Carlos Sainz had a really strong day.
A strong weekend, you could argue, given the car was difficult.
There you go, exactly.
Strong season.
Yeah, but there you go again.
Yeah. Mad to think that he's the one without a drive.
I know, this is a crazy sport we work in, isn't it? But honestly, to finish 2 places higher than he started, and then he pumped in the fastest lap at the end as well, just for good measure. I mean, it was good to see, and I think this is a track that he enjoys, isn't it? It's obviously where he got his maiden win in 22. But Charles Leclerc was very frustrated in the pen. Some bad decisions he felt from the team. His head was down. I feel like Ferrari pose more questions than they answer at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And I think they had a bit of moments a few races ago, and we thought, they are really strong. Now they're struggling again, and they are clearly on the back foot. Let's wait and see. But it's tough, and I saw today how tough it is now for a lot of minds that Lewis is going to Ferrari.
I was just about to say that.
I saw that in your eyes, so I jumped ahead again.
But what must he be thinking? He's just got this victory here with Mercedes, and he's looking over his shoulder thinking, hang on a minute.
Yes, but I remember very clearly looking at Lewis slowly walking from, at the time, his McLaren garage, only staring into the Mercedes garage, when Mercedes was actually not fast. And at this moment, I was already commentating my first year, and I said, he's actually going there. The way he's looking in the garage, the way he looks at the mechanics. I said to myself, he has signed there and he has moved on. It was a very wise move. I mean, let's be honest. It became a decade of domination, and he has this feeling. So maybe it's gonna work out with Ferrari. We don't know. But obviously, on a day such as today in Silverstone, where the dominance is suddenly back and the skill is there, the excellence is there, the magic is here. You really have to ask yourself, is this a good decision? But anyway, I mean, time will tell.
As Roscoe strolls past us.
Yes. Ferrari had that consistency, didn't they, earlier on in the year? Leclerc then wins the Monaco Grand Prix. And Wurz, if we'd had you on the show on the Sunday night of Monaco, I think we would have all been eulogising about the Ferrari that we've got this year and Lewis being able to look into the future. But there is clearly work to be done with that car. It's a difficult car.
Well, I think one of the concerns was this porpoising coming back. You saw it bouncing this weekend. You were like, hang on a minute. Feels like we've regressed.
Yes, I mean, Ferrari was a car at the beginning of this new aero rules. It did bounce, but the aeroflow never really detached, so the drivers felt comfortable. And it was actually, they were one of the strongest cars at the time, and they didn't have the purposing fast change of aero balance, which is what the driver hated. And maybe this first strength made them not look into such detail like Mercedes or all the others, and therefore they didn't address this problem, so didn't make the effort to understand it, so now they're on the back foot. And I think this is what we're just seeing.
As your compatriot always said, Niki Lauda, you learn more when you're losing.
Yes, yes, and please at home, this is also true for each and every day in your life, so don't get beaten down. It's tough, but it is absolutely true, especially in sport. And watch this interview with Roger Federer and how sensational he was saying that, yes, he won over 80% of his matches, but he just barely won over 50% of the points.
Yeah, that is wild,
and this
isn't
is
it?
just telling you are one of the greatest, even with just merely making more than half. We all should remember that.
So the top 10 look like this. Lewis Hamilton took a record 9th win on home turf, coming home just ahead of Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri was 4th in the second McLaren, with Sainz 5th in the lead Ferrari. Another sensational race by Nico Hulkenberg saw him come home in 6th. The two Aston Martins of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso were 7th and 8th. Alex Albon took his second points finish of the season for Williams in 9th, with Yuki Tsunoda rounding out the top 10 for VCARB. In the Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen extended his lead over Lando Norris at the top of the standings to 84 points. Charles Leclerc is 3rd, with his Ferrari teammate Carlos Sainz just 4 points further back, despite Carlos missing the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix earlier in the season. Piastri is 5th, 6 points ahead of Perez in 6th. Russell is 7th, just 1 point ahead of Silverstone winner Hamilton in 8th, with Alonso 9th and Stroll 10th. Red Bull continue to lead the constructors' standings, their lead over Ferrari now 71 points. McLaren are 3rd, just 7 points further back, and Mercedes are 4th, 153 points ahead of Aston Martin in 5th. VCARB remains 6th, but they're now only 4 points ahead of Haas in 7th. Alpine are 8th, Williams remain 9th, and Sauber are 10th. Well, what a day it's been, guys. I'm going to ask you now how we end every show, really. Driver of the day. Lewis got it on the telly. Wurz, who was your driver of the day?
Every day blends into one big thing. I have 20 drivers of the day. I'm very proud that they've shown us a great show on all ends. I would still call Lewis the very, very well and utterly deserved driver of this day.
Yeah, there were a handful of contenders for it today. I think Carlos Sainz, Nico Hulkenberg, both had great races. But look, you can't... And Max Verstappen, by the way. So I would say in order... How many do I get?
Yeah.
No,
It's
look,
like giving one driver of the day, Pinks. It's a bit of a theme.
Commitment.
Okay, I'm going Lewis. I mean, you can't look beyond him, can you?
Yeah, he
Phenomenal.
was sensational, but to say something different, and I feel we've backed it up in our chat as well, I do think Max has been as brilliant as he has been all year. I can't...
Yeah, he really has.
The man seems to have no weakness, and it was wonderful to see Lewis fighting back and proving that, you know, the fire is still there. But for me, I'm going to say Max Verstappen is the driver of the day. Well, guys, thank you very much for your time. Verzi, great to see you. We're going to see you in Hungary in a couple of weeks' time.
I will be in Hungary, absolutely. If I'm with you, that very much depends if you're now inviting me for a beer.
We'll pay you in beer.
If you have any energy after Hungary, please will you come to Flackstock, my little music festival, which, by the way, as we're sitting in Mercedes motorhome, they've been incredibly supportive of, because it's all around mental health, music, comedy, dance.
Any Formula One theme?
Well, just plenty of support up and down the paddock. McLaren have just paid for a load of NHS workers to come, which is wonderful. But it's great to see the commitment that Formula One has as a whole to the importance of mental health. So Flackstock, Englefield House, just near Reading, July the 22nd.
There we go.
Join us.
Now, one more thing before we go. There was an extra team motorhome in the paddock here at Silverstone. Apex GP, the team which features in F1. That's the movie starring Brad Pitt. And just before the race today, the first teaser was revealed to the world.
Okay. Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston, now McLaren, all have a speed on the straights. Our shot is battling in the turns. We need to build our car for combat.
How am I supposed to make that safe?
Who said anything about safe?
That's Brad Pitt and Kerry Condon in F1. He plays driver Sonny Hayes. She plays a member of the Apex team. And the movie is set in the real world of Formula One. And the production team have been filming scenes here at Silverstone this weekend. In the teaser, you see them racing here and at Monza. Brad Pitt stands alongside Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez before the race. Gunther Steiner makes an appearance as well. And all the racing action scenes look awesome. So we've got that to look forward to, coming out, of course, in June 2025. Well, thank you very much to Nats and to Verzi for joining me. I thought that was a great discussion after what's been a sensational weekend, as ever, here at Silverstone. More than 400,000 fans. Just so much atmosphere, so much emotion, and a brilliant race to go with it. And for more reaction and analysis from Silverstone, please go to f1.com or the official Formula One app, and you can watch all the highlights on F1 TV. We will, of course, be back next week with our preview of the Hungarian Grand Prix. But for now, thank you very much for listening. F1 Nation is produced by Formula One and Audioboom Studios.